Sir, can you take my sister and me to the nearest orphanage? Our mother is gone. We have no one left. The afternoon sun scorched the pavement, turning the city road into a ribbon of shimmering heat. Two little girls, dusty and barefoot, stood before a stranger at a bus stop. One of them, 12-year-old Amara, clutched her 6-year-old sister Zina tightly. Their clothes were torn, their eyes were heavy with something no child should know: grief. Earlier that year, their mother, Nina, had died at the hands of a man who was supposed to protect her, Chief Dyke, their father. Once a loving husband, Chief Dyke had grown bitter after Nina gave birth to only girls. His obsession with having a male heiress poisoned everything. Even when Nina became pregnant again, Chief Dyke made her life unbearable. And when she returned from the clinic with the news of another girl, he raged like a storm. It wasn't long before he brought another woman, Ivana, into their home. And with her came betrayal, cruelty, and violence. Once upon a time, Nina and Chief Dyke were the portrait of a perfect couple. Their wedding photo still hung in the living room, faded but proud. Yet the love that once framed their smiles had rotted in silence. After giving birth to Amara and then Zina, Nina became the target of Dyke's growing resentment. "A man with no son has no future," he often muttered. He treated the girls like burdens, invisible, unwanted. When Nina became pregnant again, she dared to hope it might change everything. But the day she returned from the hospital with the scan results, Chief Dyke's fury exploded. "Another girl?" he barked. "I'm sorry, I don't choose the gender," she whispered. Slap. "Shut your mouth when I'm talking." From that day forward, home was no longer safe. Dyke would beat her for forgetting to salt the soup or for letting the baby's heartbeat be female. Rumors soon reached Nina's ears that he had another woman, and she was pregnant too. One evening, Nina confronted him. "Is it true, Dyke, that you have another woman carrying your child?" He didn't reply. Instead, he returned an hour later with Ivana beside him. Ivana stepped into the house like a queen. Dyke carried her bags, kissed her cheek, and ignored Nina entirely. When Nina begged for an explanation, Ivana laughed. "Looks like the retired wife needs a reality check." Nina slapped her. And that was when Chief Dyke turned into a monster. Nina lay crumpled on the tiled floor like a broken statue. Her wrapper was soaked in blood. Amara screamed, her voice cutting through the air like glass. Little Zina cried beside her, shaking her mother's arm, begging her to wake up. Chief Dyke had slammed his bedroom door shut after the beating, ignoring their cries. Amara, trembling, ran to bang on his door. "Papa, she's bleeding. Please help. She's dying." From behind the door came only thunder. "Don't knock on my door again." Amara clenched her jaw and ran to her mother. With strength no 12-year-old should ever need, she pulled Nina to her feet, and with Zina holding onto her arm, they half carried, half dragged her to the hospital. The hospital lights were too white, too calm. Inside, nurses rushed forward, and Nina was wheeled away. The girls sat on a bench in the hallway, clothes stained in red, hands still shaking. An hour passed. Then a doctor stepped out, eyes heavy. He crouched before them. "What happened, girls?" Amara's lips quivered. "My papa beat her. She fell. She was bleeding." The doctor stared into her eyes, old eyes in a young face. He didn't have the heart to say, "She's gone." Instead, he took their hands and stood. "Come with me." Later that night, he returned them to Chief Dyke's house. But fear overtook justice. When he saw Dyke's grand mansion and how everyone bowed to him, the doctor swallowed his courage. "Your wife, she didn't make it," was all he said before leaving them behind. After the funeral, silence filled the house like poison. But it wasn't the peaceful kind. It was the silence that follows destruction, the kind that hides knives behind closed doors. Ivana, now firmly planted in Chief Dyke's mansion, transformed the home into a place of punishment. She locked the girls out of their mother's room. She erased photos. She laughed too loud, wore Nina's clothes, and used her spoons. The very next morning, while Dyke prepared for work, Ivana crept into the girls' room. Her eyes were cold. Her voice was colder. "Get up, both of you. This floor isn't going to mop itself." Amara blinked. "We haven't eaten since yesterday." Splash! Ivana poured an entire bucket of cold water over them. "You'll mop faster now." From then on, hunger became their shadow. When Chief Dyke was around, Ivana smiled sweetly. But the moment he left, she unleashed cruelty like a flood. Amara and Zina were starved, overworked, and told to hide whenever their father came home. One afternoon, Zina's small stomach betrayed her. She stumbled to the dining table and softly said, "Daddy, my sister and I haven't eaten anything today. Can we please have some food?" Dyke, surprised, stared at the tiny girl before him, trembling, sincere. He gave her his plate. "Take it, my child." Ivana stiffened, her eyes turned dark, but she smiled and said nothing. That night, she made them pay. The house creaked that night, full of shadows and sharp whispers. Rain tapped the roof like a ticking clock. Amara couldn't sleep. Hunger gnawed at her belly, but something deeper of feeling kept her awake. She got up to fetch water from the kitchen when she heard voices. Not her father's, not Ivana's alone, a man's voice. Carefully, she crept closer and crouched behind the half-open door of the guest room. Inside sat Ivana, draped in a red satin robe, laughing with a man she called Stephen. His voice was smooth, but the words they spoke chilled Amara's bones. "You think Dyke suspects anything?" "He's too stupid," Ivana smirked. "He still thinks I'm his blessing." "And the girls?" Ivana scoffed. "They'll go first. When he's gone, nobody can claim his assets except our son." "So it's settled," Stephen whispered. "We end them all. Then we own everything." Amara clapped a hand over her mouth, heart pounding like thunder. She didn't dare move. Every second she lingered, risked everything, but she knew, in that moment, that she had to run. She had to save Zina. That night, while Ivana slept in luxury, Amara packed their school bags with what little they had: 2 dresses, half a loaf of dry bread, and their late mother's photo. Then she shook Zina awake. "We're leaving now." The mansion was asleep. The air was thick with secrets and the scent of betrayal. Amara held Zina's hand tightly as they crept past the hallway, barefoot. The floor was cold, but the fear in their hearts burned hotter. Every creak of the stairs, every sigh of the wind felt like it could wake the devil. Zina whispered, "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe," Amara said, forcing strength into her voice. "Anywhere but here." They slipped past the front door. Outside, the night air kissed their cheeks like a blessing. Above them, the moon hung low, full, golden, and watchful. A perfect witness to their flight. They walked for hours, guided only by streetlights and instinct. They didn't know where they were going, just where they couldn't stay. Amara thought of her mother's best friend, Auntie Jumai. But what if she sent them back? At a quiet junction, they saw a man waiting by the roadside, a backpack slung over his shoulder. Amara's heart pounded again, this time with desperation. She stepped forward. "Good evening, sir. Please, could you take my sister and me to the nearest orphanage? Our mother just passed away. We have no one." The man turned slowly, his eyes softening. He knelt before them. "You're not alone anymore," he said. The orphanage gates creaked open just as dawn touched the sky. The man, whose name was Mr. Oho, had driven through the night to get the girls to safety. Amara sat in the back seat, holding Zina, who had finally fallen asleep. Her head rested against her sister's shoulder, her small chest rising and falling with trust. The matron, Madame Iredi, welcomed them kindly. She looked into Amara's eyes, saw the weight she carried, and didn't ask too many questions. "You're safe now," she whispered. Inside, the rooms were humble but warm. There were toys, beds, and other children. For the first time in days, Amara and Zina ate real food. They slept like stones that night. The next morning, a well-dressed couple came to visit, Mr. and Mrs. Bako. They had been trying to adopt for years. When they saw Zina with her round cheeks and gentle eyes, their hearts melted. "She's perfect," the woman said softly. But when they stood to leave with her, Amara grabbed her sister's hand and stepped in front of her. "No, we stay together. The matron tried to explain the benefits of separate adoptions, but Amara's voice shook with tears and steel. We are sisters. If she goes, I go. If I stay, she stays. We've lost everything. We're all we have left. Mrs. Baco's eyes filled with tears. Mr. Baco nodded slowly. Then we'll take them both. That day, two hearts stayed whole. The walls of Chief Dyke's mansion echoed with a silence that even money couldn't fill. 3 days had passed since the girls escaped. At first, he didn't notice. He assumed they were hiding, afraid of Ivana's temper. But on the 4th day, a call came from the local police station. Chief Dyke, your daughters have been found. They're safe. Relief washed over him like rain until the officer continued. They were taken to an orphanage, but have already been adopted. The couple submitted a false address. We're still trying to trace them. Chief Dyke's breath caught. His daughters gone? He sank into his armchair, numb. For the first time in years, real tears rolled down his face. Not for power, not for pride, but for what he had broken. How could I lose them? He whispered. How did I become this? Ivana walked in, unconcerned, adjusting her hair. When she saw him crying, she rolled her eyes. They're gone. So what? You have me now. And our son. Her words slapped harder than any hand ever could. That night, Dyke didn't eat. He didn't speak. He sat alone, staring at the last family photo they ever took, the one with Nena, Amara, and Zina. 6 weeks passed like shadows crawling across the floor. Chief Dyke barely spoke. His mansion felt more like a tomb than a home. Then in the dead of night, Ivana went into labor. Dyke rushed her to the hospital. His emotions tangled fear, guilt, hope. The same doctor who once treated Nena stood at the door. He recognized Dyke but said nothing. This time there was no blood, no loss. A few hours later, the cries of a newborn boy echoed down the corridor. It's a boy, the nurse said. For the first time in months, Dyke smiled. He cradled the child, small and warm in his arms. His name is Azy, he whispered. That night, Dyke sat beside the crib. His heart should have been full, but somewhere deep inside, he still felt the absence of two little girls who once called him Papa. Ivana, meanwhile, saw only victory. 2 months later, she approached Dyke in the lounge, wearing a silk robe and practiced sweetness. Honey, I'm exhausted from caring for Azy alone. My cousin Stephen is an excellent chef. He studied continental dishes in Cimarron. Can he come stay? Just for a while? Dyke hesitated. He's just here to help, she insisted. It'll give me time to focus on Azy. Dyke nodded. 1 week, no more. 2 days later, Stephen arrived, suitcase in hand, smile too wide, voice too smooth. And the walls began to close in. Far away from Chief Dyke's mansion, Amara and Zina were adjusting to their new life in the countryside. Mr. and Mrs. Baco had taken them in, given them a room, food, and even new school uniforms. But something felt off. The Bacos had told the orphanage they lived in the same city, yet the drive had taken hours into an unfamiliar place. Their mansion was grand, but surrounded by thick forest and long stretches of quiet road. Amara noticed the cameras, the thick locks, the way Mrs. Baco always looked over her shoulder when speaking on the phone. Zina didn't notice. She laughed again. She played. She slept peacefully for the first time in months. But Amara, she was watching and waiting. Back in Chief Dyke's mansion, Stephen had quickly become part of the household. He cooked, cleaned, smiled, and cracked jokes. But when Dyke wasn't home, he showed his true face. He'd whisper into Ivana's ear, "Why wait so long? Get him to change the will. Once everything's in the boy's name, we move." Ivana nodded. "Let him think he's won. When he's fully relaxed, we strike." They shared a drink, laughing as music played through the house. But Dyke, who had returned home unexpectedly to retrieve a forgotten folder, stood frozen in the hallway, the music masking their words, but their closeness unmistakable. His instincts tingled. His past mistakes echoed. and for the first time, he didn't trust Ivana. Chief Dyke didn't confront Ivana. Not yet. He played it cool, smiling over breakfast, handing her the baby, even complimenting Stephen's agouti soup. But inside, something had shifted. For the first time in years, he was watching the people around him instead of assuming he controlled them. While Ivana napped with baby AZ, Dyke made a quiet call to his friend, Inspector Whale. Can you run a background check on a man named Stephen Udo? Says he's a chef from Cimarron. He's staying with me. There was a pause on the line. I'll get back to you, Whale replied. But be careful. That name, it rings a bell. Far away in the Bako mansion, Amara wandered into a hallway she had never noticed before. The doors were always closed, but that day one of them was slightly open. She peeked inside. A dusty room, a computer, a wall covered in photos and adoption documents. Not just hers, not just Zina's, but others. Dozens. Then she saw a photo of her and Zina with a red X over it and the word transfer scribbled underneath. Her blood ran cold. She grabbed Zina's hand that evening and whispered, "Pack your things," quietly. Back at Dyke's house, Inspector Whale called back. His voice was low. Stephen Udo is not a chef. He's a known con man. He was once linked to the death of an elderly widow. No conviction, but watch your back. He's dangerous. Dyke's hands trembled. Everything was unraveling. Amara moved like smoke through the house that night. She packed only what mattered. A sweater for Zina, their late mother's photo, and a few snacks Mr. Bako had handed them earlier. She hadn't told Zina what she saw, only that they couldn't stay. "Why are we leaving again?" Zina whispered, rubbing her sleepy eyes. "Because sometimes even soft beds hide sharp knives," Amara replied. They tiptoed past the long hallway, past the room with the photos, past the heavy front door with its coated lock. But as Amara reached for the latch, she froze. A red blinking light above the door. A camera. Live. Someone was watching. Back at Chief Dyke's mansion, Dyke sat calmly at the dinner table. Ivana poured him a drink. Stephen dished out pepper soup, all smiles. "To family," Stephen toasted. "To clarity," Dyke replied, raising his glass. Hidden beneath the dining table was a recorder. Dyke had wired the entire room. He needed proof, not just suspicion. As they laughed and pretended, he listened closely for a slip-up. And it came. Stephen leaned toward Ivana and whispered, "He's taking the bait. After he signs the will, we end this like the widow in Enugu." Dyke's hand tightened around his glass. In the Bako house, Amara turned to flee, but a loud voice boomed from the speaker above. "Where are you girls going?" Lights flickered on, doors slammed. Mrs. Bako's footsteps echoed down the stairs. Amara grabbed Zina's hand and ran. Amara and Zina burst through the back door, their feet hitting wet grass. The Bakos were right behind them, shouting threats that no child should hear. The air was heavy with dew. Trees loomed like silent witnesses. Amara pulled Zina into the forest behind the mansion, not stopping until the shouting faded into the distance. They stumbled over roots, scratched by branches, but never stopped moving. "We're not going back," Amara whispered, eyes burning. "We'll find someone who listens." Meanwhile, in Chief Dyke's mansion, silence fell after dessert. He excused himself quietly and disappeared into his study. Minutes later, a sound rolled through the speakers in the living room. Stephen looked up. Ivana dropped her fork. "Once he signs the will, we end this. Like the widow in Enugu. Their own voices, crystal clear, word for word." The recording played again and again. Dyke stepped into the room with a look no one had seen before, not rage, not fear, cold decision. "I gave you everything," he said slowly, "and you planned to take my life." Stephen stood up too fast. Ivana reached for an excuse, but before either could speak, armed officers stepped in through patio doors. "Don't move," said Inspector Whale. Mirabelle froze. Stephen ran, but not far. Justice, long delayed, had arrived. At dawn, cold and exhausted, Amara and Zina wandered onto a lonely road. A passing van slowed down. The driver was a tall man with kind eyes and silver in his beard. "Are you girls all right?" Zina hid behind Amara, but Amara, with everything left in her, nodded slowly. "We ran from the people who adopted us. They lied." The man's face hardened. He recognized them from the orphanage, from the day they were taken away too quickly. "Get in," he said softly. "You're safe now." His name was Mr. Ralph, a silent guardian who had long suspected the Bacos. When they fled the city with the girls, he began tracking them quietly. Now, with the girls safely in his car, he drove them back not to the orphanage, but to his own estate. He made them warm food, gave them clean clothes, and when they asked, "Can we stay?" he simply said, "For as long as you want." Amara, unsure if they'd ever see their father again, wrote a letter. She gave it to Mr. Ralph, sealed with tears. Days later, Chief Dyke, now free from Ivana and Stephen, both arrested, received a message from Inspector Whale. "A man named Mr. Ralph has something for you. Come quickly." Dyke arrived at the estate and shouted for his daughters, but they didn't run to him. They stood in the doorway, unsure. Mr. Ralph stepped out and handed Dyke the letter. "She asked me to give this to you. Read it." Inside, in Amara's handwriting, "Papa, if you're reading this, it means you're looking for us. I hope it also means you've changed. You used to be our hero, but you let someone break us and you didn't stop her. We're not angry anymore. We just want to be safe. We still remember the sound of Mama crying, but we also remember when you used to laugh with us. If that man is still inside you, maybe we'll see him again someday. Amara." Tears blurred Dyke's vision. For the first time, he didn't see his daughters as burdens, but as miracles he nearly lost forever. The courtyard felt like another world wide, quiet and drenched in morning light. Chief Dyke stood alone with the letter in his hand. Every sentence burned deeper than any prison could. He looked up slowly and saw them. Amara stood beside Zina, both still as stone. Their faces were unreadable. Their eyes carried years he never noticed before. "Amara, Zina!" His voice cracked like broken wood. "I don't expect you to come to me," he said. "I just needed to tell you something." He knelt right there in the dirt. "I was a fool. I let pain make me cruel. I lost your mother. I lost you, but I won't lose this chance to say I'm sorry. Not just in words, but in how I live from now on." Zina tugged on Amara's sleeve. "Is that really Papa?" Amara's throat tightened. She had dreamed of this moment, but not like this. Not with him kneeling. Not with her heart unsure. She stepped forward just a little. Zina followed, quietly placing her hand on their father's shoulder. He broke down. Mr. Ralph stood by the doorway, watching silently. He didn't smile, but he nodded. Sometimes mercy begins with stillness. Later that day, Dyke sat with them under a mango tree. No guards, no title, just a father. He didn't promise to be perfect, but he promised to never vanish again. Amara didn't speak much, but when he handed her Mama's necklace, the one Ivana had locked away, she finally whispered, "Thank you." Weeks passed like petals floating down a quiet stream. Chief Dyke didn't return to his mansion. He sold it. He bought a smaller house near Mr. Ralph's estate, modest, quiet, and close to his daughters. No servants, no noise, just space to start over. Each morning he walked Amara and Zina to school. At first they didn't speak much, but one afternoon Amara handed him a drawing. It showed 3 figures, her, Zina, and him standing under a mango tree. "We're still learning," she said. He held it like gold. Stephen and Ivana faced trial. The recordings were enough. Their crimes, manipulation, conspiracy, attempted murder shocked the country. But Dyke didn't attend the hearings. His punishment had already been carved in memory. Mr. Ralph officially adopted Zina, not to take her away, but to secure her rights. Amara, now older, chose to stay close but independent. She started journaling. Stories poured out of her, pains shaped into poetry. One Sunday evening, Dyke took his daughters to the spot where Nena was buried. No camera crews, no public apology. Just 3 chairs under an almond tree. Your mother, he said, voice thick, deserved the world. I failed her. I failed you. But if you'll let me, I want to build something better. Not for the world to see, just for us. Zina reached for his hand. Amara placed their mother's necklace around the branch above the grave. Then let's start here, she said. Children are not investments, they are sacred. Daughters are not lesser, they are light. What you throw away in pride may one day become the thing that saves you. And forgiveness, when given freely, is the strongest legacy of all. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more timeless tales. See you next time.